A fire has broke out and people are dead. Let's look at Numbers chapter 11. We're still looking at the people of Israel and Moses. Here at the first part of chapter 11, it says the people are complaining. God heard their complaining, and it says a fire broke out in the uttermost parts of the camp, and lives was lost. This is calamity, and people are mourning, they're crying, they're heartbroken, and it says God did it. That is confusing to me. You know, there's many people, and maybe you all say it. This is not judgment or trying to make a harsh statement, but many people say that's not of God. Even in present day, we hear something going on, and we say, that's not of God. Especially when it comes to hardness of life, calamities, death, sickness, and we say, God don't do that. But we read in the Old Testament too many accounts where we see the scripture says God did it. But we know we saw Satan come on the scene back in Genesis, in the book of Revelation, right? Around the 12th chapter. Let's go there. Let's see. I think it's the 12th chapter. 12th chapter, 4th verse, something like that. Yeah, chapter 12. Let's go to verse 7. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels was cast out with him. So he was commissioned to the earth. So we see his handiworks all throughout the Old Testament and New, but we have to know where we see him and how we see him. God will call the angels back, the angels of protection. We see that in the life of Job. God told the angels, step back. When Satan said, you have a hedge of protection around Job, I can't touch him. And God said, well, angels, step back, so that Satan can wreak havoc. So this fire that broke out amongst these people could have been the same situation. It doesn't say. The fire broke out. Now the people still complaining. Over in verse 5, they say, well, we remember when we was in Egypt, there was plenty of food to eat. We had fish, we had cucumbers, we had leeks, we had melons, we had garlic. We didn't have to worry about where our next meal was coming from. So Moses goes to God because the people are complaining to him. Now these are adults. Because let's look at verse 11. Moses is upset here. And Moses said unto the Lord, wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant? And wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all this people upon me? Have I conceived all this people? Have I begotten them, that thou shouldest say unto me, carry them in thy bosom, as a nursing father beareth a sucking child, unto the land which thou swearest unto their fathers? Doesn't that sound like frustration and aggravation? He said, why? Why are you laying this charge of this people and their burdens of their livelihood on me? Because these are adults. These are not little children coming up to him saying, Mr. Moses, pulling on his shirt or his robe, saying, we hungry. These are not children. These are adults. People his age and older and some younger. These are adults. Why couldn't the men say, well, we're out here together. We're all out here together, and we know where we're going. We're not sure how we're going to get there, but we're here in this thing together. And I'm going to take this part. Me and this 80, 40, 70, 180 men, we're going to take care of the wood to be a fire so that other people can cook. Can we have other people check on the health and welfare of the people? Let's go over a little bit further, because he's complaining, and this is God answering him. It says in verse 16, and the Lord said unto Moses, gather unto me 70 men. This is his answer to Moses. Of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be elders of the people, and officers over them, and bring them unto the tabernacle of the congregation, that they may stand here with thee. And I will come down and talk with thee there. And I will take of the spirit which is upon you, and will give it unto them. and they shall bear the burden of the people with you, that ye bear it not thyself alone. So you see the spirit of God that God had to give Moses, because we're just human beings. He was a human being, just a man. There's many things in the old and new that has not changed. Moses could not have done this. You see him complaining. He's complaining over and over. Every time the people complain, Moses complained to God, which is the place where he's supposed to go. But we see his wherewithal wearing thin, saying, I can't take this. I'm sick of this, because people can wear you out. The people in your house, the people on your job, the people in your community. It doesn't matter where the human is. People are always complaining. Things are never good enough. We're not content. And they look at one person or maybe a small group of people. It's your fault. This is like this because you say you're in charge. So if you're in charge, why don't we have all the pencils to get ready for the exam? Why don't we have, is there water? Aren't we going to have refreshments? What? This water's not cold. Always complaining. Now, don't get offended. We're talking about just humanity, people. It may not be you. Because in chapter 12, verse, let's see, turn over there real quick. At chapter 12, verse 3, it says, Now the man Moses was very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. In his time period, his lifetime, God said he was meek. What is meekness? Because we see his frustration, his humanity. Meekness is when God told him to go to the Pharaoh before they came out of Egypt. He went to the Pharaoh over and over and over. In between all of those plagues, because they didn't come out of Egypt, God told him to go into Egypt and deliver the people, and he told him that on a Sunday, and the people was coming out Saturday following. This was not fast. This took time, and elapsed time of this occurring, him going back and forth to the Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh was somebody he grew up with. Do we want to be embarrassed and made to feel shame in front of somebody that we know? Sometimes it's okay to feel shame in front of a stranger, but somebody that you know, our feelings is hurt. That is a dig to the ego and your pride when you are ashamed before somebody that you grew up with. Here it is. He had to keep going back to Pharaoh saying, let the people go. And then sometimes Pharaoh said, take the people and get them on out of here. And then Moses runs back to the campsite. We're leaving, y'all. Pack up. It's happening this time. And then the officers of Pharaoh come back and say, no, y'all ain't going nowhere. Then Moses standing there looking silly or foolish before the people. And then them approaching him. I thought you said we was going. So we're not going, right? We're not going nowhere, Moses. So you're not effective when people laughing in your face and shaking their head. You think that you are competent in your job skills and you're doing the best you know how. But yet there's always somebody who's smirking at you. Are you going to be ready to quit the job because you got laughed at? We have to be ready to stand strong, because God will allow people to laugh at you to see if you're going to be loyal and committed to him. It's not all about the people, and it's not all about the agenda in the project. It's whether we're willing to be faithful to God and stay the course, even in the face of being laughed at and people shaking their head and say, you stupid, you're just foolish, and you're incompetent. That's what meekness is. And God has to give us the heart for people. Because the same people that you're aggravated with, you have to be willing to keep respect for them. When you want to say, I give up, it's too much, I'm walking away from this. God can find somebody else. Let's go on down to verse 31. And there went out a wind from the Lord, and he brought forth quail. He's providing for the people again. And drop down to verse 33. And while the fish was yet between their teeth, ere it was chewed, and the wrath of the Lord was kindled against the people, and the Lord smote the people with a very great plague. Here is something breaking out again, and people's lives are being lost. A plague, a disease, a virus, or something. Here is a plague because of complaining. God ain't God, and I don't like how he provides. Be careful. God is a consuming fire when he tells the angels, back up. New Testament, we don't necessarily answer up for another person's life. We answer up for our own. Communities and droves of people were killed here. But it does not necessarily have to be after the death and resurrection of Christ. It's the individual. He will protect you in the midst of everything that's going on around you. Be grateful and tell God thank you.